The silence of a dropping barometer is loud if you know how to listen for it. I stood in my garage, surrounded by the specific, comforting smell of cold concrete, machine oil, and old dust. My workbench was a shrine to order calipers aligned by size, rock hammers hung by weight, and a topographic map of the Alaskan North Slope pinned to the corkboard. I tapped the glass face of the analog barometer mounted above the drill press. The needle twitched and fell another millimeter. 904 millibars. That wasn't just a low-pressure system. That was the atmosphere collapsing in on itself. A vacuum waiting to be filled by the storm force. My phone buzzed on the bench. It was Leo, my former spotter from the contract days, calling from a rig in North Dakota. "Davis," I answered, putting the call on speaker as I greased the intake valve of my portable Honda generator. "You watching the radar, boss?" Leo's voice crackled through the static. "That front coming over the Rockies looks like a bruise on the sky. It's gonna hit Denver like a freight train." "I see it," I said, my hands steady as I tightened the flange. "Inversion layer is trapping the cold. It's going to be a hard freeze." "You got your perimeter secured?" Leo joked, but we both knew it wasn't really a joke. "Or are you still letting that HOA guy push you around?" "Henderson is a civilian, Leo. He thinks a dandelion is a threat to national security. I handle him." "And the neighbor? The one with the eyes?" I paused. I looked up at the garage door. "She's persistent. She thinks I bring down the property value because I don't wash my truck every Tuesday." "Right," Leo laughed. "Stay warm, boss." The call ended. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and hit the wall button. The motor whined, lifting the metal curtain to reveal the cul-de-sac. Leo's joke landed because my face didn't change. I just watched the sky like it owed me money. I'd been back in Denver for 3 weeks, trying to be a civilian dad, 3 weeks of school runs, grocery shopping, and pretending that the silence of the suburbs didn't make my skin crawl. Out in the field, silence meant you were safe. Here, silence just meant I was alone with my thoughts until Maya got off the bus. I felt like a sample tray of rocks labeled glass-cased and completely untouched. "Daddy?" I turned. Maya, my 6-year-old, was standing in the doorway leading to the kitchen, holding her stuffed penguin by the wing. She looked small against the vast emptiness of the house I hadn't managed to make a home yet. "Yeah, bug? The sky is purple." She was right. The sky wasn't gray. It was a bruised, heavy violet. The air smelled like ozone and wet iron. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees in the last hour. My internal radar, the one that kept me alive in zones where maps were just suggestions, started pinging. Hard freeze incoming. Grid vulnerability high. I walked down the driveway. The wind was already picking up, biting through my flannel shirt. Across the street, the manicured lawns were stiffening with frost. And there she was, Hattie Ramirez, my neighbor. 38 years of high-speed, low-drag professional ambition wrapped in a beige cashmere coat that probably cost more than my first truck. She was wrestling a blue recycling bin that the wind was trying to steal. She was losing the fight. Her heels, actual stilettos in December, were slipping on the black ice forming on the asphalt. Her hair, usually lacquered into a perfect bob, was whipping across her face. I should have gone back inside. Hattie and I were different species. She was paperwork and permits. I was bedrock and fieldwork. To her, I was just the roughneck next door. But then the wind ripped the lid from her hands, and I saw her shoulders slump. It wasn't just frustration. It was exhaustion. I didn't think. I just moved. I intercepted the plastic lid just before it hit the bumper of Mr. Henderson's pristine Acura. I grabbed it and walked it back up her driveway. "Pressure's dropping," I said. My voice sounded rusty. Hattie jumped, spinning around. Her eyes were wide, dark, and terrified. "Not of me. Of the wind." "Kendrick," she breathed. She reached for the lid, her hand shaking. I thought the pickup was tomorrow." "They canceled it," I said, handing her the plastic. The storm front accelerated. "We're looking at 2 feet, Hattie. Maybe 3. She blinked, smoothing her coat. She straightened her spine, pulling her professional armor back into place. The forecast said 3 to 5 inches. "I have a city council meeting on Tuesday. I can't be snowed in." The forecast is using a model from 6 hours ago, I said, pointing at the violet sky. Look at the cloud ceiling. It's an inversion layer. It traps the cold. You need to get your car in the garage and tape your north-facing windows. She laughed, a brittle, nervous sound. Tape my windows? It's Denver, Kendrick. You're being dramatic. I'm being a geologist, I said flatly. I survey instability for a living. This neighborhood is about to get hit by a bomb cyclone. Physics doesn't care about your meeting. I turned to walk away. I had done my duty. I had warned the civilian. Wait, she called out. I stopped. Your truck? She said, gesturing to my driveway. It's parked over the sidewalk again. Mr. Henderson is going to fine you. I looked at her. The wind was cutting through her coat, turning her lips blue, and she was worried about the HOA bylaws. Let him try, I said. Go inside, Hattie. I walked back to my garage and hit the button. As the door rolled down, sealing me in, I saw her still standing there, staring at the sky. A small, stubborn figure against the coming whiteout. By 6 p.m., the world was gone. The snow wasn't falling. It was being driven horizontally, a white curtain so thick I couldn't see the end of my own driveway. The wind howled like a living thing, rattling the siding of the house. Inside, my house was a bunker. I had the generator primed. I had the camping lanterns staged on the kitchen island. Maya was in the living room, secure in a blanket fort we'd built under the coffee table, watching a movie on her tablet with her headphones on. I was in the kitchen, checking the thermal seals on the back door, when the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then, darkness. The hum of the refrigerator died. The furnace blower groaned and stopped. Daddy? Maya's voice was small. I'm here, Bug, I said, my voice calm. Power's out. Just like camping. I clicked on my headlamp. The beam cut through the dark living room. I walked to the window and looked out. The streetlights were dead. The entire cul-de-sac was black, except for one flickering beam next door, Hattie's house. I saw a flashlight beam darting frantically through her downstairs windows. Then it disappeared. I checked my watch. 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill was 25 below zero. Hattie's house was a beautiful, historic Victorian renovation. High ceilings, huge single-pane windows, drafty as hell. Without a furnace, that place would be a meat locker in 3 hours. Pipes would burst in 5. I waited. She's smart, I told myself. She has a fireplace. She has blankets. 10 minutes passed. The flashlight beam didn't come back. My stomach tightened. I knew that layout. The insulation in those old Victorians was sawdust and hope. Maya, I said, my voice low and level. Stay in the fort. Keep your hat on. Do not take off your socks. Is Miss Hattie frozen? Maya asked, her eyes wide. No, I'm going to get her. I grabbed my heavy parka, my insulated gloves, and the sub-zero sleeping bag I used for Arctic surveys. I pulled on my boots, lacing them tight. This wasn't a friendly check-in. It was a cold weather rescue. The walk next door was a battle. The snow was thigh-deep, heavy, and wet like concrete mix. The wind screamed, trying to knock me off balance. But I leaned into the vector, finding my footing. I hammered on her door. No answer. I hammered again, hard enough to shake the frame. Hattie, this is Kendrick. Open the door. When the deadbolt clicked and the door cracked open, the air that escaped wasn't warm. It was freezing. Hattie stood there, wrapped in 3 decorative throw blankets that offered 0 thermal retention. She was holding a dead flashlight, shaking so violently her teeth were clicking. Her pupils were dilated, the adrenaline dump of panic. The pilot light? She stammered, her voice thin. I tried. Matches. It's not the pilot, I said, stepping inside and kicking the door shut to stop the draft. The regulator on your gas meter froze outside. You have no heat source, Hattie. I stripped off my glove and touched her cheek. It was cold, like marble. You have to come to my place, I said. No, she shook her head, her brain sluggish from the cold. I can't. I have the files. The council. Hattie, listen to me. I grabbed her shoulders. Your core temperature is dropping. You are in stage 1, hypothermia. Your cognitive function is slowing down. In 20 minutes, you won't be able to walk. In an hour, you go to sleep and you don't wake up. Hattie's shoulders tightened. Her voice shrank down to a thin, careful thread. She looked at the dark, cold emptiness of her perfect living room. Then she looked at me, the guy she usually ignored. She saw the headlamp on my forehead, the gear, the certainty. "Okay," she whispered. I didn't offer my arm. I dropped the sleeping bag. "Put this over your head like a hood. Hold the bottom closed. We move fast." I guided her out. The wind hit us like a physical blow. I positioned myself upwind of her, acting as a human shield, breaking the gale so she could walk. We trudged through the drifts, my hand gripping her elbow, keeping her upright on the ice. Inside my house, the warmth hit us, 65 degrees. To us, it felt tropical. I locked the door and turned to her. She was fumbling with her buttons, her fingers too stiff to work. "Stop," I said gently. "Let me." I brushed her hands aside. I unzipped her coat. I wasn't looking at her body. I was looking at the symptoms. Shivering was good. It meant her body was still fighting. "Sit," I ordered, pointing to the armchair near the kerosene heater. "Don't get too close. You warm up too fast, you get chilblains. Drink this." I handed her the tea I'd prepped. High sugar, high heat. She held the mug with both hands, the steam rising around her face. "You have a plan for everything, don't you?" she whispered. "Hope is not a strategy," I said, repeating the old drill sergeant mantra. "Preparation is." Morning brought light, but no escape. The snow was 4 feet deep and still falling. We were buried. The house became a strange, small ecosystem. The tension was palpable. Hattie was an urban planner. She was used to controlling her environment. Here, she couldn't even check her email. She paced. She sighed. She rearranged the coasters on my coffee table. "Hattie," I said around noon. I was sitting at the dining table, sharpening my field knife with a whetstone. "Shh, shh, shh. Pacing burns calories. We need to conserve food." "I can't just sit here," she snapped, turning to me. "The vote on the Greenway project is Tuesday. If I don't submit the revised impact study, Henderson wins. He's been trying to get me kicked off the committee for months. He says I'm administratively chaotic because I missed one deadline." "Henderson?" I scoffed, checking the blade's edge. "The guy who measures his grass with a ruler? He's powerful, Kendrick. He can ruin my reputation. I need to send that file." "The internet is down, Hattie. The cell towers are iced over. Tuesday doesn't exist anymore." She slumped into a chair, putting her head in her hands. "I worked so hard on this. I missed one soil density report, and now he's using it to claim I'm incompetent." I paused. I set the knife down. "Soil density?" I asked. "Yes. The easement crosses a drainage ditch. Henderson claims it's unstable." I stood up, walked to my bookshelf, and pulled out a heavy black binder. USGS Survey Maps, Arapahoe County, Geological Cross-Sections, 2023. I dropped it on the table in front of her. It made a heavy thud. "Open to page 42, I said. "I kept these cross-sections printed because the HOA kept arguing about my drainage last month." Hattie blinked, then opened the binder. Her eyes scanned the complex topographic lines. "I surveyed the oil lease 3 miles north of here last year," I said, pointing at a jagged line on the map. "I drilled core samples 60 feet down. Henderson thinks it's silt because the topsoil is loose. But look at the substrate." She traced the line. "Compacted clay? Better?" I said, leaning over her shoulder. "Smectite clay sitting on top of sandstone bedrock? That ground isn't unstable, Hattie. It's harder than the foundation of his house. The water table is 10 feet lower than he claims." She looked up at me, her eyes wide with realization. This data proves he's lying. Or just wrong." "He's wrong," I said. "He's looking at the surface. I look at what's underneath." She grabbed her laptop. "Can we digitize this? Can you help me map the load-bearing capacity?" "Move over," I said, pulling up a chair. For the next 6 hours, we didn't speak about the storm. We spoke the language of data. She explained the zoning laws and the community needs. I translated that into sheer strength and hydrological flow. We argued. She pushed back on my phrasing. I pushed back on her optimistic timelines. You can't pave that section in March, I said, pointing at the screen. The frost heave will crack the asphalt in 2 years. If we wait until May, we lose the grant money, she countered, her eyes flashing. We need a permeable surface. Then use crushed granite, I suggested. It drains, it settles, and it looks better. She stopped. She looked at the screen, then at me. A slow smile spread across her face. Crushed granite. That's brilliant. It's cheaper, too. I know rocks, I shrugged. You know solutions, she corrected. She leaned back, stretching her neck. Her shoulder brushed mine. It wasn't accidental. It was the comfortable proximity of two professionals who had just solved a puzzle. You're not what I thought, Kendrick, she said softly. I thought you were just the guy who liked to be alone. I do like to be alone, I said, looking at the data so I wouldn't have to look at the softness in her eyes. It's safer. Safe is boring, she whispered. This is effective. Day 3. The snow stopped, but the world was frozen solid. We were eating oatmeal in the kitchen when a pounding on the door made us both jump. It was Henderson. I opened the door. He was standing there in a pristine, high-end parka, face red with exertion and rage. He held a clipboard. Of course he held a clipboard. Miss Ramirez, he shouted, looking past me to where Hattie stood in the hallway. I just walked the perimeter. Your elm tree. The big Siberian elm. It's cracking. Hattie stepped forward, clutching her cardigan. What? It's listing, Henderson yelled, waving a pen. It's leaning right over the community mailboxes. Section 4. Paragraph B. Homeowners must mitigate structural threats immediately. If that tree falls, I am filing a negligence suit so fast your head will spin. I'm documenting this. He pulled out his phone to take a picture. Hattie looked terrified. She was just a woman trapped in a house that wasn't hers, being yelled at by a man who held her career in his hands. I can't call anyone, she stammered. The roads? Not my problem, Henderson spat. You are liable. I felt a cold, calm focus settle over me. It was the same calm I felt when I had to defuse a pressure valve. I stepped out onto the porch. I didn't shout. I just occupied the space. I'm 6'2", and I've spent 10 years carrying heavy packs up mountains. Henderson, I said. He stopped, blinking. This doesn't concern you, Davis. Actually, it does, I said. Because you're trespassing on a closed road during a declared state of emergency, and you're shouting at my guest. I walked past him, down the steps, thigh deep into the snow, and over to the massive elm tree on the property line. I didn't just look at it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my inclinometer, a heavy brass instrument used for measuring slope angles. I placed it against the trunk. I brushed the snow off the root flare. I checked the bark. The tree isn't cracking, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the crisp air. The bark is shedding due to thermal expansion. That's normal for Ulmus pumila. It's leaning, Henderson shrieked. It has a 4-degree list to the south, I said, reading the dial, which it has had for 20 years, judging by the reaction wood on the lower bough. But more importantly, I kicked the base of the trunk. The soil here is frozen clay. It has a shear strength of about 3,000 psi right now. That root ball is locked into the earth harder than the foundation of your house. Gary. I turned to him. I held his gaze until he fidgeted. If you file a negligence claim based on a visual estimate without a certified geotechnical assessment, I will testify as an expert witness that you don't know a taproot from a tulip, and I'll bill the HOA for my time. My rate is $400 an hour. Henderson's mouth opened. He looked at the tool in my hand. He looked at Hattie, who was watching from the porch with wide eyes. Fine, he muttered, tucking his clipboard away. But if it falls, it's on her. It won't fall, I said. Go home, Gary. He turned and trudged away, defeated by data. I turned back to the house. Hattie hadn't moved. She was staring at me. I walked up the steps, wiping the snow off my inclinometer. 400 an hour? She asked, a small smile playing on her lips. For him? Double, I said. She didn't move out of the way to let me in. She stood there, searching my face. Thank you, she said, softly. You didn't have to do that. He's a bully, I said, looking at the doorframe above her head. I don't like bullies. Kendrick, she said. I looked down. You're really good at this, she said. The saving part. I just know rocks, Hattie. No, she said, and her voice was fierce. You know safety. You make people feel safe. Do you have any idea how rare that is? It hit me in the chest like a physical blow. Safe. I hadn't felt safe since the day my wife died. I provided safety. I built walls. I secured perimeters. But I didn't feel it. I was just the watchman. Come inside, she said, stepping back. You're freezing. That night, the house felt warmer, though the thermostat hadn't changed. The generator hummed. The lantern cast a golden glow over the living room. Hattie was sitting on the floor with Maya, playing Go Fish. They were laughing. I sat in the armchair, a book open on my lap, watching them. The drafty corners of the room seemed to recede. After I put Maya to bed, Hattie and I sat in the kitchen. You have a nice life here, Kendrick, she said, tracing the rim of her mug. It's quiet. It's lonely, I said. The truth slipped out before I could catch it. I stiffened, waiting to regret it. She looked at me. Why? You're a catch? You're smart? You're capable? You're a great dad? I'm jagged, I said, looking at my hands, scarred knuckles, calloused palms. I spent too much time in places where everything wants to kill you. It's hard to switch that off. It's hard to sit at a dinner party and talk about interest rates when you're scanning the exits. She reached out across the table. She covered my hand with hers. You don't have to switch it off, she said. You just have to find someone who appreciates the wall you built. I looked at her hand. Her nails were chipped from the cold, but her grip was firm. I didn't pull away. I let the silence stretch between us, comfortable and heavy with unsaid things. I need to check the carbon monoxide detector, I said finally, my voice rough. She squeezed my hand once, then let go. Okay. Good night, Kendrick. Day 4. The melt began. The sun came out, blindingly bright. The plows finally broke through the main road, scraping asphalt. The spell was breaking. Reality was coming back. I was in the garage, organizing my tools. Hattie came in. She was dressed in her own clothes again, jeans and a sweater she'd retrieved from her house. Power's back on at my place, she said. Good, I said, not looking up from the wrench I was cleaning. Pipes okay? Yeah. Thanks to you draining them. She stood there, shifting her weight. So, I guess I'll get out of your hair. You weren't in my hair, Hattie. Kendrick. I looked up. I have the rescheduled meeting with the committee tomorrow, she said. Henderson is going to be there. I'm going to present the new data. You'll handle him, I said. You've got the science now. I do, she said. But I was wondering if you'd come, as a consultant, to verify the soil reports. If you're free. I froze. She wasn't asking for a rescue. She wasn't playing the damsel. She was asking for a partner. She was asking me to stand beside her, not in front of her. What time? I asked. 10 a.m. I'll be there. The twist came at 9 a.m. the next morning. The sound of a roof failing is distinctive. It starts with a groan, wood fibers tearing under tension, followed by the sharp pop of nails shearing. I was buttoning my shirt when I heard it. A low, grinding moan that cut through the silence of the thaw. I ran to the window. Across the street, the massive snow load on Henderson's flat-roofed garage was sliding. The sudden sun had turned the snow into heavy, wet slush. Tons of it. I saw the brickwork bowing out. And I saw Henderson. He was standing directly under the eaves, broom in hand, poking at an ice dam. Hattie! I yelled, grabbing my phone and running out the door. She was just coming out of her house, dressed for the meeting. What? Henderson's garage. It's going to collapse. We ran. I grabbed my truck keys from my pocket as I sprinted past my F-150, popping the toolbox in the bed. I saw Henderson standing under the overhang, trying to knock icicles down with a broom. Gary! Move! I roared. He looked around, confused. What? I didn't explain. I hit him with a tackle that would have made a linebacker proud, driving my shoulder into his chest, launching us both sideways into a snowbank. Crash. The world turned white and gray. The roar was deafening as timber, shingles, and bricks slammed into the concrete where he had been standing a second ago. Dust billowed up. I rolled off Henderson. He was gasping, pale as a sheet, staring at the pile of rubble where he had been standing 2 seconds ago. You okay? I asked, checking him for debris. He nodded, unable to speak. I stood up and sniffed the air. Mercaptan. Rotten eggs. Sharp and deadly. Gas! I shouted. The meter sheared. Hattie! Hattie didn't need instructions. She was already on her phone, pointing at the gathering neighbors. 911. This is a structural collapse with an active gas leak, she said, her voice clear, commanding. Professional. Back. Everyone back to the street entrance. Do not start your cars. No sparks. I grabbed the heavy 2-4-inch pipe wrench I had pulled from my truck's toolbox. It was heavy, cold steel in my hand. I ran to the utility shutoff at the side of Henderson's house. The gas was screaming out of the pipe. I clamped the wrench onto the valve nut. It was frozen, stuck. Come on, I gritted out, planting my boots in the slush. I leaned my entire weight into the tool. With a screech of rusted metal, the valve turned. The hissing died. I dropped the wrench in the snow and leaned against the brick wall, breathing hard. The fire department cleared the scene 20 minutes later. Henderson was shaken but alive. The neighborhood was safe. Hattie and I were standing by my truck. The adrenaline was fading, leaving that shaky, hollow feeling. We missed the meeting, I said, checking my watch. It's 11. They probably voted without you. Yeah, she said. She looked at her phone. I missed it. I'm sorry, I said. I know how much that meant to you. She looked at me, snow melting in her hair, soot on her cheek. She looked at Henderson's ruined garage, then at me. Are you kidding? She said. You just saved a man's life. He was just in the wrong place, I said. She stepped closer. We were in the middle of the street. Neighbors were watching. She didn't care. Kendrick, she said. You know that sentence you said? About being jagged? Yeah. You're not jagged, she said. She reached out and took my hand. In public. In front of the whole street. You're just bedrock. You're the thing everything else is built on. I looked at her. I saw the way she looked at me not as a project, not as a rescue, but as a man. You're not on patrol anymore, Kendrick, she said softly. This is just a Tuesday. And you're safe. My throat tightened. I looked down at my boots, blinking hard. The heavy armor I'd been wearing for 5 years felt a little lighter. I squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. I'm here, I whispered. Beat 10. Resolution. 2 weeks later, the snow was gone, replaced by the slushy promise of spring. We hosted a thaw-out party in my backyard. It was Hattie's idea. She organized it, the food, the invites, the music. I built the fire pit. Henderson came. He walked with a cane now, nursing a bruised hip. He brought a bottle of expensive wine. He didn't apologize, men like Gary don't know how, but he shook my hand and asked for the contact info of my structural engineer friends. I stood by the grill, flipping burgers. Maya was running around the yard with the neighbor kids. Hattie walked up to me. She was wearing jeans and my old flannel shirt, sleeves rolled up. So, she said, handing me a beer. The city council rescheduled. They approved the greenway. Nice, I said. Did the evacuation help? It didn't hurt, she grinned. But honestly, they read the soil addendum you wrote. The head of the committee said the hydrological data was irrefutable. They approved it, based on the math. Good, I said. Math wins. We win, she replied. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a key. A shiny, brass house key. I made a spare, she said. For emergencies. Or... I took the key. It felt heavy. Real. I put it on my ring, right next to the key to my truck and the key to my house. Coffee sounds good, I said. I looked around the yard. My house, my daughter, my neighbor, Hattie. For the first time in 5 years, the internal radar in my head was silent. No threats, no perimeter to check. The wind didn't set off the alarm in my head. For once, the horizon was quiet.